more than 50 informative inspirational video lectures with more to come. Visit stream.afa.net to experience the AFA Cultural Institute.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. The House expected to take a test vote on the government funding bill this morning. It could then head to the House floor for a vote and then be sent to President Trump. That would end the current partial government shutdown. But it wouldn't end the fight over DHS funding, which has to be figured out in the next 10 days. And Democrats are digging in their heels over ICE. Congressman Jim McGovern of Massachusetts.
And I refuse to fund such a lawless, out-of-control agency. I will not vote for business as usual while mass agents break into people's homes without a judicial warrant in violation of the Fourth Amendment.
Texas Congressman Chip Roy says Republicans are ready to have that fight.
I'm going to be fighting to ensure that we've got the resources necessary for the men and women of Border Patrol, ICE, and the other people at Homeland Security to secure this nation against violent criminals that are endangering the people of the United States.
A woman who detransitioned after identifying as a male, winning a landmark medical malpractice lawsuit. Fox Varian was awarded $2 million after suing the doctors accused of pushing a double mastectomy when she was a minor. Jamie Reed was one of the first children's transgender whistleblowers in the United States.
I am so grateful that this jury decided on this plaintiff's behalf. She deserves justice for this, and she really is the tip of the iceberg on how this industry has been treating these young people and their families. A lot of this becomes that this is no longer a medical standard. Right now, this is a belief system that has been spread through the medical system. These providers have a false belief that they were saving children from the potential of suicide by doing these things. There's no evidence to back that up. And now we are starting to see this belief system basically crumble.
President Trump is set to welcome Colombian President Gustavo Petro to the White House today, where the two leaders are expected to talk about strategies to end drug trafficking and boost trade relations.
Somehow after the Venezuelan raid, he became very nice. He changed his attitude very much. So, I look forward to seeing him. He's coming in. We're going to be talking about drugs because tremendous amounts of drugs come out of his country. And I look forward to seeing. We're going to have a good meeting.
Two more individuals involved in that attack on a Minnesota church last month have been arrested. Former CNN host Don Lemon was indicted and arrested over the weekend for his role in storming the city's church in St. Paul, Minnesota. He says he was being a journalist. Steve Jordahl has more.
A grand jury indicted Don Lemon for conspiring against the rights of religious freedom at a place of worship and for conspiracy to interfere with the exercise of religious freedom. On the one hand, he was live streaming from the protest and was asking questions. On the other hand, the questions often defended the protesters by making up First Amendment claims out of thin air.
There's a Constitution in the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
But not in a church. New York Post reporter Lydia Moynihan had to correct CNN's Abby Phillips on the air as to what the indictment says Lemon was up to.
You accuse me of mischaracterizing the indictment. This is actually a quote from the indictment that Lemon posted himself at the main door of the church where he confronted some congregants and physically obstructed them as they tried to exit, challenging them with facts about U.S. immigration policy.
Tim Graham of Media Research Center says the mainstream media has already laid down its narrative.
It depends, as usual, on is the journalist accomplishing something for the left? In that case, it's journalism. If the journalist is with a right-wing mob, then he's not a journalist.
Graham notes Lemon was given a standing ovation at Sunday night's Grammy Awards dinner and long ago stopped being a real journalist.
Don Lemon isn't doing this for CNN. Don Lemon's purely doing this for Don Lemon. He's going to make money off that live stream. He's going to make money off his Substack.
I'm Steve Jordahl.
Global shares have surged, led by a nearly 70% jump in South Korea's benchmark to a record close. Shares in Tokyo gained nearly 4%, also setting a record. U.S. futures also rose, while oil prices fell. More news online at afn.net. And download the AFN mobile app for your Apple or Android device. I'm Rusty Pugh.
The mission of American Family Association is to inform, equip, and activate individuals to strengthen the moral foundations of American culture and give aid to the church here and abroad in its task of fulfilling the Great Commission. Further, AFA believes this ministry, as well as everything in the heavens and on the earth, belongs to God, and AFA's role is that of a trusted manager.
Thank you for standing with the American Family Association.
Welcome to Today's Issues. Join us for the next hour as we offer a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Ed Vitagliano.
And welcome to Today's Issues. Ed Vitagliano sitting in for Tim Wildmon for the next couple of days. And I am joined in studio by Fred Jackson, who will be my co-host today. Good morning, Fred.
Good morning to you, Ed.
And Chris Woodward, news reporter extraordinaire.
Good morning.
And birthday boy.
Thank you very much.
Say, this is a big day for you, 44 years old.
You're reaching that point in life where you thank God that you lived to see this far and you stopped celebrating the milestones.
Milestones. Yeah, you get to a certain age and the milestones are, I made it.
Yeah.
I made it 44. You'll probably make it to 88, maybe beyond. So this is like middle age for you.
If the Lord tarries,
yes,
science
sure
says we are living longer. But I do work in the news, and there's a reason I look twice my age now.
You looked twice your age when you first came here, though, Chris.
Yeah, I did.
In your 20s, right?
Oh, yeah. I went gray in my 20s, straight up. I'm waiting on the day where somebody, a server in a restaurant or something, asks me if my daughters are my grandkids, because it's going to happen. I actually got carded a few years ago when, during COVID, everybody was wearing masks or whatnot. I went to one of the stores over here to buy something because it was Spirit Week at my kids' school, so I went there to pick up a few items for their outfits that day.
Yeah.
And the lady that was checking me out, she said, "How old are you, sir?" And I went, "Excuse me?" And she went, "Never mind." And I went home and told my wife, and my wife told me she was going to give me the senior discount.
Yes. Well, listen, my wife and I get the senior discount without them even asking.
Enjoy it.
That's when you know you're up there in age. Hey, I gave you that old person discount already. Oh, thank you very much. Yep. My wife, I'll just say this, and then Fred, I'll let you talk a little bit. My wife constantly wants to get the little senior citizen discount, and I don't like it. I don't like doing that. It's just a pride thing. I don't like. It sounds like we're saying to them, "Hey, we can't afford the real price. Can you knock a little bit off? We're old people." But my wife says, "I don't care. I don't care what they think. We get the whatever, 5%, 10%.
Well, today is Tuesday. There is a grocery store nearby here.
Yeah.
And Tuesday is Senior's Day. And if you think I'm going to give up on that 10% that they
grocery store, that's serious money.
Oh, it's serious. And I wait. And I make sure, and I sometimes, thank you very much for not saying you're getting the seniors discount, but I want it.
Yeah. There's a grocery store that gives a 10% discount?
On Tuesdays.
Huh.
10% on Tuesdays.
I will test it out after the show. AFN investigates.
Well, now, when you're talking about grocery money, that's serious stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's serious money.
Yeah, I'll go there usually most Tuesdays. And if there's something, I'll call my wife. Will you need anything? I'm going to that grocery store.
All right, then during the break, I want you to tell me what grocery store that is.
I can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, or is that something we can say publicly? Can we say that on the air? Or?
What's another name for a stream?
Oh, a brook. Brooks. Locally. All right. Okay. All right. Interesting. Very interesting.
Yes.
All right, folks. It is Tuesday, February 3rd. We're starting to motor on through the month. And we're not deep into 2026, but we're starting to get there. By the way, just wanted to let you know that at 10:30, we're going to have Steve Tybor on. He's president of 8 Days of Hope. That organization, Christian organization, has been in Mississippi and in a few other places hit hard by the storm of 2026 or the storm of 26. And hopefully it remains. I was thinking about this morning. I was thinking the storm of 26. Let's hope it's not storms of 26 because we're early in the year. We may have other storms that wreak havoc. So hopefully there's just the one big ice storm and we'll be done with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's very possible. I mean, we're getting up into the 60s, praise God, later this week and into next, which generally when you have some warm weather and some cold weather, they get along about as well as Democrats and Republicans. So we might have a severe weather storm here later this month. It's certainly possible, which is what people without power don't need right now.
Right, that's absolutely right, and that is why 8 Days of Hope has been here, because a lot of people have been without power. I think a lot of it is getting cleared up, but there are some people who've had so much disaster that there's still, power companies still trying to get, and not power companies, but just city workers trying to clear streets. And this was pretty devastating for a lot of people and very inconvenient for most people who were in the path of the ice part of Fern, storm named Fern. All right, Chris, let's start with whatever news you've got.
Well, I mentioned Republicans and Democrats don't get along, and one of the things that they've been divided about in recent weeks has been DHS, specifically ICE patrols and Border Patrol efforts to find and remove illegal immigrants and lawbreakers here in these United States of America. The divide is so great that for a few days now, we've been in what's called a partial government shutdown. And at issue is DHS funding. And the reason I bring all this up is because today there's going to be a test vote on some legislation that Democrats want Republicans to agree to in the way of some concessions with ICE funding and DHS policies. And so there's going to be a test vote on this later today. One of the sticking points here, there are some Republicans that want something called the SAVE Act to be included in this bill. The SAVE Act would basically be another stopgap measure to ensure that illegals are not voting in our federal elections, something that has been rumored or documented for a few years now. Democrats say we're not going to vote on this if you guys include that. President Trump does want them to make that a separate issue, and he's actually been talking to a few House members, including Anna Paulina Luna of Florida, who seems to have come around on this issue on a promise that perhaps they'll vote on that later this month. So all eyes are on Washington today because, again, there's a test vote, which will lead to another vote perhaps this afternoon.
Well, Fred, this is yet again another opportunity for Republicans to show their great resolve that they have in these battles. I mean, they stick to their guns and they stick to their principles whenever it comes to government shutdowns. The Democrats, I'm joking, folks, but the Democrats always seem to want to use the threat of a government shutdown as a way to wrest concessions away from the Republicans. And listen, it is first of all, a big deal that the Democrats want to put on the table a discussion about whether funding should continue for ICE, and if so, what limitations. I mean, they are at war with Immigration and Customs Enforcement. I'm not sure if they want to starve that agency out. I don't know what they would replace it with. I'm also frankly confused why Republicans and Democrats, why keeping illegals from voting in federal elections is not a bipartisan issue.
Yeah, well, we have to start our discussion in Minneapolis. It is safe to say the Republicans are losing the PR battle on that front. I always have to remind people the Democrats have a tremendous ally that you should never underestimate. They have the mainstream media on their side.
Yes.
So the images coming out of Minneapolis, for the most part, whether it's TV, whether it's print, very liberal, Pew Research, I'd like to remind people, Pew Research several years ago did a survey of journalists in this country. 90% of them vote Democrat. All right, so you've got to understand. The other part of this is that the discipline that used to be in place amongst journalists to keep your biases out of your political reporting is gone. All right. So you have the Democrats and the media have been working in concert to show the worst that they can, that the ICE agents working in Minneapolis are the bad guys. All right, just to put it plainly, they are the bad guys. They're doing terrible things. We played a audio of a Democrat senator yesterday. You remember that on the program, where he says they're bursting into elementary schools and all of this kind of thing, which was absolute nonsense. But when you have the media on your side, they're not going to check you for this. These lies that are being told. So Chuck Schumer, a minority Senate leader, says, here's an opportunity for us to look like the good guys in the eyes of many Americans, and we're going to carve out the DHS funding out of this bill. And he has succeeded in that. Now, they're going to have to debate that 2 weeks from now. But he's succeeded in that. Republicans have gone along with it. President Trump is okay with that. So now it's gone to the House with that DHS carve-out in it. And, of course, what Republicans wanted was this SAFE Act, which SAFE stands for Safeguard American Voter Eligibility. Basically, what Republicans want, when you show up to vote, you have to prove you're a citizen of these United States.
And for federal elections.
For federal elections, yes. So Democrats said, we don't want that. Chuck Schumer says that's voter suppression. And so now Trump has been on the phone. We had audio this morning of Trump saying he's been on the phone with Chuck Schumer, and they have a deal. Now the pressure is coming from the White House on House Speaker Mike Johnson and the Republicans today to pass this test vote and get us out of this government shutdown. President Trump, it's midterms. We don't want a shutdown because we, the Republicans, will get blamed for it.
Right.
So that's where we are. So it is likely what we're hearing is from some of these Republicans this morning is that Mike Johnson, who perhaps has one of the most difficult jobs in Washington, House Speaker, he is a good man. He's a born-again believer.
Right.
He's working hard. And I don't know why he wants this job, because the poor man has got to be stressed all the time. It appears that he's been able to corral enough Republican forces. Remember, the voting margin in the House right now is super thin.
Yeah.
The Democrats were able to swear in from a special election in Houston, I think, on the weekend, somebody today. So we're down to 1 or 2 votes. That's all there is. It looks like this test vote will pass, and so we'll get through. The government will be back in action again. But we're going to have a debate on the Department of Homeland Security budget coming up in the next 2 weeks.
Well, and obviously the SAFE Act, too. Is there any idea? I know sometimes we hear there's a deal, Schumer and President Trump. Do we have any idea what the deal is?
Yeah, you keep the SAFE Act out. SAFE Act is going to have to wait for another day. So they want that out of there. And it looks like the DHS funding is carved out for now.
Carved out, what does that mean?
Carved out, well, right now, DHS is funded from the reoccurring.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So they're taking that out of the question right now.
Okay.
And it's got to be debated within a couple of weeks.
And the alternative would be that whatever the Republicans remove from this bill, they could reinsert, for example, I don't know what the right language is, in the reconciliation bill that they are allowed once a year to vote, where you don't have to deal with filibusters and so on and so forth.
The other thought is that the SAFE Act could come up as a standalone bill. So that's kind of where it's being sold to Republicans right now, that instead of trying to tie this in, that we wait and we'll debate the SAFE Act somewhere down the road.
Chris, let me ask you this. Now, we didn't discuss this in our story meeting, so if you don't know the answer to this question, I fully understand. There's a lot of details to keep, juggling. A man of your age probably can't always do that, but not like you could when you were a younger guy.
Yeah.
But Are there any? I hear this kind of language sometimes. I'm not sure it's official for any city or state in America that currently allows illegal immigrants to vote, or non-citizens. Mm-hmm. Not just necessarily illegals, but people who are here. Is California, for example, do they let illegal immigrants vote? There's always this talk about we're going to give them driver's licenses, and then the question is, well, can they use that to show up at a poll and vote? Because Fred, well, Chris, I think is looking something up.
I'm looking it up to answer your question.
Yeah. So. My personal belief is certainly the SAFE Act would be a stopgap measure to keep illegals, for example, from voting in a federal election. But I've got to think that even in city and state elections, there would be a legitimate Supreme Court or at least federal judiciary review, a legitimate review of whether or not the Constitution is being violated, because you're essentially giving non-citizens the right to disenfranchise my vote. If I'm a voter in San Francisco, for example, and San Francisco says we're letting, as long as you show up with a driver's license, you can vote, then we're not checking your citizenship status. California allows illegal immigrants to get a driver's license, therefore we're letting illegals vote. If I was a conservative, I'd take that to court.
Yeah.
And I would say, I know it's a state election. I know it's not a federal election, but you're still violating the Constitution by disenfranchising citizens who are allowed to vote.
Yeah, you give the principled answer there, but here's the issue. The Democrats argue that if we demand somebody to show up and vote with a passport,
right,
prove you're a citizen, or a copy of your birth certificate. A lot of people don't have those documents. A lot of people don't have passports,
right,
et cetera, et cetera. Their argument is they may be American citizens. They don't have those documents, so you're suppressing their vote. That is the argument from the Democrats.
I see.
All right? That's what they say. So they would never admit that we're allowing. They wouldn't say voice it. They wouldn't say we're allowing illegal immigrants to vote in this federal election.
Right.
They would simply say we cannot suppress this vote just because they don't have a passport or a copy of their birth certificate.
The counter to that is obviously that, I know you're not advocating for this, but the counter is pretty simple. We require people to have a passport or a driver's license to get on a plane.
That's right.
Are we arguing that by doing that we're suppressing people who don't have those particular documents? You got to have those kinds of documents. Now, I don't have to have those kinds of documents. If folks, just as an example, if I were to go into a convenience store and want to buy a 6-pack of beer, okay, I'm older, maybe they would card me just because it's the law, but there may be people who are in their 20s saying you're suppressing my right to engage in commerce because I don't have those kinds of documents. So it's a tricky argument that the Democrats are making, and these kinds of arguments are always tricky when you're actually trying to accomplish A, B, and C over here. So you make the argument about X, Y, and Z to take the eyes off what you're actually trying to do. What would you find?
Yeah,
Chris?
So this is from Ballotpedia, which is a fantastic source on political ballot-type issues. This data is current as of January 20th, 2026, and I'll post this on our Today's Issues Facebook page. California, Maryland, and Vermont do have jurisdictions allowing non-citizens to vote in local elections. There's approximately 18 or 19 states that explicitly prohibit non-citizen voting in state constitution, and a handful of states are actually voting on non-citizen voting measures this year. Those include Arkansas, Kansas, and South Dakota. There's a whole bunch of states that don't have anything on the books about all this.
Yeah, I would guess because...
Including Mississippi.
I would guess because nobody thought it would be possible that someone would be trying to allow non-citizens to vote.
Well, that's because when the framers wrote everything down and then the state started to join the union, people governed with common sense, which has been lacking for generations in this country.
Well, in Tim's absence, as he has often said, why do you think Joe Biden allowed 15, 20 million people in the country illegally? The goal is these people will vote. Yeah. And they'll vote for us because they're going to be so grateful that we allowed them in the country.
Right. Well, I guarantee you that at least in some places, whether it's intentional or by error, somebody that's a non-citizen that goes to vote, let's say on election day, for, he or she's going to vote for mayor, but then their ballot includes things like the senator and the president of the United States.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to take that from them in a place like San Francisco or Oakland, where it's allowed to happen.
Yeah.
Because they want them to vote.
All right. What else we got?
Well, I will say this. President Trump is also meeting today with the president of Colombia. This is an interesting meeting, given the fact that the Trump administration has been involved in trying to change Venezuela and change the political climate of that part of the world. But President Trump says he's looking forward to today's meeting, which is supposed to involve things like efforts to combat drug trafficking and also trade deals. Clip 6.
Somehow after the Venezuelan raid, he became very nice. He changed his attitude very much. So, I look forward to seeing him. He's coming in. We're going to be talking about drugs because tremendous amounts of drugs come out of his country. And I look forward to see. We're going to have a good meeting.
Now, he says that often.
Well, Chris, I want you to. Who's the president?
Okay.
Of Colombia?
Gustavo Francisco Petro Urrego.
Yeah, that's him.
How do you sign that check without a name?
Yeah.
Gustavo Petro. That's a great name. I always thought I like Gustavo as a name. So he's the current president of Colombia.
They call him Gus.
They call him Gus.
I'm sorry, President Pedro, if I butchered your name.
So if President Gustavo Petro, if you need to borrow $1 for the snack machine, does he give you a petrodollar? Is that how that works?
Perhaps.
You know what a petrodollar is?
I sure do. Yes,
Okay.
I sure do.
All right, so he is coming to meet with our president.
Yes.
And so, Fred, is there any chance that President Trump could wind up being the acting president of Colombia too?
Well, I think what you're going to see coming out of this is without him admitting it, you're going to see a capitulation as you've seen in Venezuela. Trump is smart enough, he's a smart enough businessman. He's getting what he wants without, and we look at Venezuela as the example. He is allowing Maduro's, what I call 2IC, second in command, to continue to run the country. That has some controversy in it because the lady who many people believe really should be the head of Venezuela, who's been kept in isolation the last couple of years, won the Nobel Peace Prize, etc. We're still not sure where Trump is with her. She came to visit President Trump there a couple of weeks ago. She gave him a copy of the Nobel Peace Prize. She's an admirer of Trump. But Trump, being the businessman, says, okay, what I want out of this deal with Venezuela is oil. And he's getting that.
Right.
Basically, he has been able to work a deal that sees all of these big oil companies taking control of the oil industry in Venezuela. And Madam Rodriguez is happy with that because it's going to be a whole lot of money for that government and for the people of Venezuela. So I think he has put in place a pattern, which I think he's going to copy in Colombia, that will help. We'll do great trade with you, Colombia. But by the way, fentanyl, any other bad drugs, cocaine, coming from your country ends right here.
Well, it's clear that the Trump administration, and I like what President Trump is doing in our hemisphere, because he is making it clear to Latin American countries that he's not going to tolerate China being a major player in our hemisphere. He's also making it clear he doesn't want communist dictatorships existing in our hemisphere because they foment problems in our country and throughout Latin America. And so I like this as part of President Trump's foreign policy. We talked about Cuba yesterday, and hopefully that's all going to continue. All right, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll talk to Steve Tybor for a few minutes.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildmon.
Felix Mendelssohn, the famous musician, was visiting Freiburg once and went into the cathedral there. He listened to the music coming from the organ. Following a few moments of listening, he approached the organ and asked permission to play the musical instrument. The old organist in charge refused his wish at first, but finally consented after much insistence on the part of Mendelssohn. As Mendelssohn played, beautiful music flowed throughout the entire building, and the old organist, jumping with delight, placed his hands on the composer's shoulders and asked who he was. "Who are you? What is your name?" "Mendelssohn," came the reply. The old organist, moved with emotion, cried back, "And can it be that I so nearly refused to let the great Mendelssohn touch this organ?" It may not to you, but the much-told story says something to me, for I nearly missed the touch of the Master's hand in my life myself. Here the old organist was, with greatness and beauty and talent right beside him, and he nearly missed it. I wonder how many times in life this has happened. Greatness gets so near and seeks permission, and we turn it away because we fail to recognize it. Had the old organist followed his first instinct, he would have never heard the master of music perform, and his life would have been the poorer because of it. I can remember a poem which many of you are probably calling to mind right now. It's a poem about an old fiddle being auctioned off. It's picked up, held high, and the bidding begins. At first, not much is bid for the old fiddle, which seems worn and wasted. But from the back of the room, a stranger comes forward. He takes the fiddle, brushes the dust from it, tunes it just a little, and begins to play on it some of the most beautiful music ever heard. And the fiddle then brings a very good price. The difference was in the touch of the master's hand. How many times in life have we seen this happen and know to be true? It appears that one person has reached the place where he isn't too important. He doesn't bring much on life's market. Maybe he failed in business. Maybe he has given in to the bottle. Maybe he's just tired of struggling. But then the master touches that life, and how much difference it makes. His value goes up ever so fast. That old organ and the fiddle would never have reached the heights they did had it not been for the touch of a master's hand. And I know many a rich life today that would have never been worth much had they not been touched by the master's hand. When he seeks permission to play a new tune in your heart, don't refuse him.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildmon, a production of the American Family Association.
For we know that if the earthly tent we live in is destroyed, we have a building from God, an eternal house in heaven, not built by human hands. 2 Corinthians 5:1.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
And welcome back, folks, to today's issues. Ed Vitagliano sitting in for Tim Wildmon. For the next couple of days, I'm joined in studio by Fred Jackson and Chris Woodward. Well, everybody, unless you have been living the last couple of weeks under a rock somewhere, you have heard, you were aware of the approaching storm named Fern, which was just a brutal winter storm. And it has ravaged a lot of places, including places in the Deep South, where people are not generally prepared for those kinds of frigid temperatures, ice and snow. And so there's been a lot of work to do to help people kind of work their way back to normalcy. And one of the groups doing that is 8 Days of Hope. And Steve Tybor, the president of that ministry, no stranger to the AFR listening audience, is on the phone with us to talk about what 8 Days of Hope is doing to help people following the storm of 26. Steve, welcome back to today's issues.
Yeah, guys, thank you so much for having me. I'm praying that there's someday you just invite me as a guest and we're not talking about a disaster because, oh my gosh, I tell you, the last 9 days, it's been a whirlwind with this storm from Texas to Maine. Tennessee and Mississippi have seen some huge power outages. And even just 2 minutes ago, I logged in Mississippi where American Family Radio and 8 Days of Hope, both of our headquarters are at. 36,000 families as of this minute have no power, and there's no end in sight for some of these families. So, yeah, a lot going on down here.
So 36,000 families still in the state of Mississippi without power, because it was
that stat was just literally 5 minutes ago. There's an outage map that you can go to the state and see where they're at. And, you know, right now we're deployed to two different areas of the state. We're in New Albany, Mississippi, and Oxford, Mississippi. Our heavy equipment is in New Albany with a smaller amount of volunteers handling just heavy equipment. We're in Oxford. We've already seen about 300 people volunteer. We're going to be there at least until February 14th. Probably will end up extending it to some extent. But, the damage is surreal. The power outages, no access to food. We launched our mass feeding arm. We've now served food in 9 different communities over the last 9 days. And, you know, every morning at our headquarters in Tupelo, we're making thousands of meals. And, at lunchtime, people are getting hot meals. So it's a little bit of this in this region and a little bit of that in that region. But, boy, the need is real.
Steve, Fred here. Tell us a little bit about how you get, for instance, food to people who may be very isolated in those places. I know Oxford is a good-sized city, but we're being told there are people just on the outskirts of these areas that are in desperate situations.
Yeah, Fred, great question. So 8 Days of Hope for the last 20 years, whenever we serve a community, we look for a way to work with the local church. Because at the end of the day, we're going to be moving on to the next city and the next disaster. And we want the local church to shine and develop those relationships. So, the food that we've been delivering today, I think it's 5 or 6 different sites. The majority of those sites are churches. So if people can make it to the church, there's a hot meal waiting for them. But the churches themselves have people ready to deliver the food to their own community. And so that's real important. Again, we're not looking for an attaboy or nice job 8 days open. We're not looking for any of that. We want the local church, the local Christian Bible-believing church to develop these relationships. So we think by Saturday, this upcoming Saturday, we would have made and have delivered about 20,000 meals. And so it's been, it's been an eye-opening experience for us, and just so thankful we can be a small part of that healing process for these families.
Hey, it's Chris here. One of the things that you and I discussed ahead of the storm when you were here on campus was the need to pray for you guys, the ministry, the people that you're trying to serve. I bring that up because a lot of people, myself included, on social media have talked about how we need to pray for these people and other storm victims. Take a moment just to tell us what prayer has meant to you over the years.
I'll tell you what, doing what we do can be very exhausting. And sometimes when you do disaster work, you better be ready to pivot on a moment's notice. You think you have a plan, you develop a plan, and then to no fault of your own, the plan changes. So, one of the things I've been praying for our volunteer leaders, our small staff, and the hundreds of volunteers that are making food, the hundreds of volunteers that are in Oxford and New Albany, is don't be so focused on the task don't be so focused on the task. Be as focused on the journey. Look for ways to encourage each other and the people we're serving. And so for us, we try to practice what we preach. Every day we start with prayer. Every night we end in prayer. Every site that we go to serve, we start in prayer. we invite the family to pray with us as well. We invite the family back for dinner, and we give them a hot meal, and that's where they hear the gospel. And once again, we're praying. And so there is power in prayer. There's so many things that we can't do. We convince ourselves we can't do this, we can't do that. Oh, I don't have the time, I don't have the money. I get all that, but we can pray. We can pray. And so be praying for the families in Tennessee and Mississippi that are waiting for a helping hand. Pray for the volunteers that are traveling as I speak from all over the country to come to Northeast Mississippi to love the brokenhearted. Please bathe this whole project in prayer.
Steve, sometimes Christians are at odds with one another over what the gospel is and what Christians should be doing. You might have one side that says we should only deal with preaching the gospel. Usually those are folks who don't want any Christian involvement in politics. But it's also, they say, you're doing that social gospel stuff. You should preach the gospel, not provide a sandwich. Then you have folks on the other side who say, no, you got to feed people, and you need to do it without trying to manipulate them with the gospel. Just feed them if they're hungry. You guys do both. What is the kind of the biblical approach that you take? I know that you don't necessarily parse this when you're on the ground in Oxford or New Albany, Mississippi, but this is obviously the foundation of your ministry. Why do you combine both of these things, helping people with their physical needs and their homes and so on and so forth, but also offering the gospel?
Well, let me share a statement with you. The greatest sermon I ever heard, and I've heard some amazing preachers. I've heard Billy Graham in person. I've Don Wildmon. You can go. I've heard so many amazing preachers preach, but the greatest sermon I ever heard is the one I saw. When a family who has nowhere to turn meets strangers who've come around the country to love on them and serve them, they see Jesus. So maybe not a scripture verse, at least in the beginning, is even mentioned. But here's what happens, Fred. Almost 90% of the time, the family will say, hey, why did you come from Wichita, Kansas to Northeast Mississippi? You live in Buffalo and you came to Mississippi? Why did you come from Texas? And I tell the volunteers, be ready with your 3-minute testimony. Just 3 minutes. Not 38 minutes, not 16 verses, not, hey, I saw beer cans on your back porch. I used to be an alcoholic, and you're going to go to hell if you keep drinking. We just want to be the hands and feet of Jesus. And when people see something that they're not used to seeing, like the greatest sermon that I ever heard is the one I saw, they're drawn to that. And here's what happens. They ask questions. Hey, why'd you come? Really? You met Jesus when you were 33 and you were an addict? Gosh, I battle addictions too sometimes. It opens up conversation. And when the conversation opens up, that's when we get to share the biblical truth. I tell the volunteers, be ready with a 3-minute testimony and maybe one Bible verse, maybe. Let them ask a question, and then they've given you permission to pour into them. So we've seen thousands and thousands come to meet Christ over the last 20 years. That's what we've done. It seems to be working out pretty well.
Well, the folks here at AFA and American Family Radio are huge 8 Days of Hope fans. They're big Steve Tybor fans, although you're a very humble guy. Steve, let me just give you this last question, and we'll let you get back to the work you're doing. How can people find out more about 8 Days of Hope? I'm sure there are people listening right now who've never heard of 8 Days of Hope, never heard of what you guys are doing. They may want more information, or there may be others who do know who you are and are saying, you know what, I got a couple of days here. I might want to pitch in Mississippi. How do folks find out and get involved?
First of all, you can text the word HOPE to 86373. Just pull out your phone, put 86373 where you normally put a name, text the word HOPE. Whenever we go anywhere, we will invite you to come. Whenever you volunteer with us, it's free, and we provide food and lodging. So go to 8daysofhope.com. On the top of the website, on the landing page, is how you can volunteer and learn more about either helping us feed people or serving people in Mississippi. We know that we're going to be here at least to a week from Saturday, but it looks like we could extend that. But again, go to the website, 8daysofhope.com, like us on social media, Facebook and Instagram, and text the word HOPE to 86373. It's free. We provide food and lodging wherever we go.
Thank you, Steve. God bless you guys in your work. Stay safe out there, okay?
Thank you, guys. Appreciate your support. We love you all so much. Thank you.
All right. That's Steve Tybor, president of 8 Days of Hope. Fred?
Yeah, also helping in Mississippi, we just found this out in the last day or so, probably the richest man in the world that everybody's heard of, Elon Musk.
Right.
He is sending more than 500 generators to Tippah County. It's one of the counties about, I'd say, 10, 15 miles from where we're sitting right now.
Yeah.
That's been hard hit. So he is sending 500 generators to that area. So what's going on right now is getting the attention of the world. And they're seeing the images. And folks, and I want to draw attention to the fact there's still 36,000, I think was what Steve said. 36,000 people in this state. It's a small state that still don't have any power. There are people who live in rural areas.
Right.
And, with a lot of pine trees in this state.
Yeah.
And pine trees are a magnet for ice.
They're the first to go when there's an ice storm.
Yeah.
Because it's softwood.
It's softwood.
They snap.
And they have foliage on them.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the wrong term in botany terms. But it holds the ice.
The pine needles, you mean?
The pine needles, yeah. And so you've got these pine trees. Talking to a gentleman this morning, he's got 4 down on his property, and then his neighbor's 2 big pine trees came over and toppled on his property as well. And so there are people out there right now, they don't have water, they don't have electricity, and a lot of people haven't been able to get in to help them.
Right, because the roads are blocked.
Yep. So the military is getting involved. We have helicopters that, I live out near the airport here, have helicopters that are going out on missions right now. National Guard helicopters going out to try to get to those areas to get them some food.
Right.
And perhaps a little generator so they have some heat, that sort of thing. So this is quite dire. And for us, sometimes the story gets old.
Right.
It's not old for those folks.
No, that's still about a third of the people who originally lost power over a week ago. Still, like you said, in dire straits. And there's all kinds of. Listen, we've had we have prayer requests and have devotions every morning here at AFA when we start our day. And I think this is something I heard in devotions. It might have been something I heard at church, but a family came through, they got their power turned on, and then their house burned down because the power came back on and something had happened to some of the wiring. People find out their pipes burst, all that kind of thing. This is kind of an ongoing disaster, and for some people it just won't let up. It's one thing after another.
I am looking at poweroutage.us, specifically Mississippi, and in Issaquena County, which is on the Mississippi River just across from East Carroll Parish, Louisiana. They are still reporting a 100% power outage in Issaquena County.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, it's not a huge population there, but it's still human beings.
And we want to remember our friends in Tennessee, too.
Yes.
Because a lot of those folks are still suffering as well.
Yeah.
And even in Nashville was hit hard.
Well, the Carolinas here just
Charlotte got a foot of snow. This was a separate system.
Yeah.
So we've got, we've got friends all across this area. And so we need to keep, and we say this, we need to keep praying, but we really do need to keep praying for these folks.
Yes, and praying for groups like 8 Days of Hope. I think Samaritan's Purse is also involved, and that is interesting, which you shared about Elon Musk donating. The generators are pretty expensive for folks, and when you're in the middle of a disaster like they've been involved in, you don't have a lot of extra cash floating around, so this will be a big help for a fair amount of people.
Yeah, one thing that might be, if you're looking to help serve or pray for people in your neck of the woods, wherever it may be, is to take care of the families of the linemen. I've got a couple of linemen that that are in my in-laws' extended family.
You're talking about that work with power
Oh,
companies.
yeah. These are the people that like climb the pole and go up way higher on a ladder than I ever will.
Right.
To help make sure that people have electricity. And a lot of these guys haven't been home like at all in a week and several days. And you've got, a wife and a couple of kids at home. So, if you can, pray for those families as well, because mama is raising a couple of boys or girls or whatever. And, dad hasn't been home because he's out trying to help other people.
Yeah. All right. Chris, let's move on.
All right. Speaking of other people, the Trump administration is still out there arresting folks that disrupted that church service at City's Church in St. Paul, Minnesota, a couple of weeks ago, if it's been that long. The latest arrestees have been identified as Ian Davis Alston and Jerome D'Angelo Richardson. And I've got some audio here of Attorney General Pam Bondi. She said early on, we are not going to tolerate this. We are going to go after those people that Don Lemon and others caught on camera disrupting the church service. What they did was wrong. And we're not going to stop with just these latest arrests. Clip 8.
These parishioners thought they were going to get shot. One of the people with Don Lemon screamed, quote, "This ain't a house of worship. This is the house of the devil." There were children crying. There were parents blocked from getting upstairs to take their children out of Sunday school.
All right, so Chris, let me ask you this: there have been arrests that have already been made,
yes,
of some of these that they've been able to identify as being. That's interesting, by the way, that Don Lemon, with his little camera crew or whatever he had going there to play the part of a journalist, actually helped provide imagery of people who were breaking the law.
Oh, sure.
So
yes.
he's partially responsible. Here's my question, and I'm just tossing this out because it just came to me. We may have to revisit this later in the week and find out. Are judges letting these people go? Or, I mean, these people stay charged. They may not stay in jail, but there aren't. I'm paranoid about liberal judges saying you can't arrest these people for any of that happening.
Yeah, I can't speak to every person arrested that's appeared before a judge yet. Some people, I think, have not yet appeared in court based on the charges they've been brought up on. But it would not shock me in a place like Minnesota, which has been one of the cashless bail type havens, that some people will get a slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
Well, I do know, Fred, that Don Lemon was indicted by a grand jury.
Yes, he was.
That was a little bit surprising.
Yeah.
Really, but I think it's clear that he was involved. Folks, what Don Lemon is arguing is that he just played the part of a journalist and he just wanted to document from a journalistic standpoint what was happening. But the fact was he had met with this group that was going into the church in advance. You can't embed yourself, quote unquote, with a gang that's going in to rob a bank.
Yeah.
And if you know about it and you can't just say, well, I'm just there to document it. Mm-hmm. If you're a part of the gang going in there, you can be arrested as being an accomplice. And that is apparently what has happened to Don Lemon.
Well, I saw a bit of the interview that, air quotes, journalist Don Lemon did with, I think it was the pastor of the church that morning when this disruption occurred. He was asking aggressive questions.
Right.
I'll put it that way. And this church was chosen, we have to keep reminding people, because one of the staff members of the pastorate works for ICE. He's a part-time pastor, and he works for ICE there in St. Paul.
And they found out.
Yes, they found out, and that's why that church was targeted. And targeted is not too strong a word. Mm. They went in and invaded.
Yeah.
They were not invited into the church.
Well, they were certainly not invited in to disrupt the service.
Yes.
Some people have made the argument, well, churches invite people to come in to the church service, but they don't invite them to come in to disrupt it.
Listen, they're going to be charged. There's civil rights charges. There's also under the FACE Act.
Yes.
The FACE Act primarily was designed to go after pro-life people who might protest outside an abortion clinic, all right? And they get arrested for simply sometimes just praying outside the abortion clinic. Let us remember when Joe Biden was president, and we had Attorney General Garland.
Merrick Garland, yeah.
Merrick Garland. He was charging these pro-life people. In fact, you may remember one pro-life person from Pennsylvania. His house was surrounded by 20 FBI agents.
Was that Houck?
Yes.
His last name Mark Houck, maybe?
He was having a meal with his kids in his house, all charged on the FACE Act. So also the Republicans, in order to get the FACE Act passed, Republicans inserted in there also disrupting a church service.
Right.
You cannot deny the church service was underway. It was disrupted by this group of people. So if they get off on this, that is maybe as a result of some liberal judge somewhere who just,
disregards the law.
And disregards the obvious on this.
In favor of criminals.
Yes.
That becomes their modus operandi.
Yes.
All right. What else we got?
Well, this one is an interesting story. I don't have the audio of her speech here, but it's gotten a lot of coverage since a few days ago when Billie Eilish, the singer that's won several awards over the length of her short career, she's back in the news because during her Grammy speech, like a lot of celebs over the weekend, they all badmouthed ICE and had some nasty things to say about ICE and the Trump administration's efforts to find and remove illegal immigrants. The reason Billie Eilish's stuff really stands out is because she talked about how this is stolen land, which is a phrase and a term a lot of liberals have been using, saying that the U.S. government, like a lot of Western Europeans, stole land from the natives that were here or whatnot. What's very interesting and perhaps humorous here is that Fox and some other news outlets did a few minutes on Google and basically found out that her $1 million mansion is sitting on what she herself calls stolen land. And to my knowledge...
The Tongva tribe?
To my knowledge, Billie has not apologized for that yet.
Well, listen, let me just tell you my 2 cents. People have all kinds of ideas about this kind of thing. The United States, broadly speaking, and the Europeans that came over to this country, they did drive out Native Americans. They did steal their land. There were wars. They were conquered. They were sent to reservations. That's not a thing we should be proud of, but it's the way that all peoples have operated. And when you and I'm not saying it's right, and God's the one who judges, but Native Americans did the same thing to one another. And I always mention the Comanches in this country annihilated tribes and then took their lands and warred. So this is the way human history has gone. All of Europe is England invaded by Anglo-Saxons and Vikings and Normans in 1066, the Norman invasion. So you can go on and on and on, go all the way back, and you'll find, hey, this used to be our land, now it belongs to somebody else. There's nothing you can do about it. And it is clearly virtue signaling. Fred, I'm going to get off my soapbox here. This is virtue signaling by Billie Eilish. I've heard of her. I don't know much about her. It's virtue signaling, and now she's been, as the French would say, hoisted upon her own petard, because now what she was trying to use as virtue signaling to slap America is now coming back on her. There are members of the Tongva tribe who have confirmed that her mansion sits on ancestral land, and I saw a picture of several of them reminding her that she could deed her land back to that tribe if she was being honest.
Hey, this is the funny part of the story. They get up and virtue signal, make these speeches, and they think nobody's going to check up on me.
Right.
They're just so arrogant. But somebody is checking up on her. This happens all the time with the Hollywood crowd. I've just reached the point where I don't pay attention to them. I really don't. I haven't got a clue who this lady is.
Yeah, I have reached that age in life where I'm like, who are these people?
Well, listen, I don't particularly pay attention until they get caught, okay? And listen, I didn't pay much attention to Al Gore with his inconvenient truth, but I did pay attention when everyone found out that he had 3 or 4 big homes burning all that electricity. These people fly all over the country. Listen, it's a cottage industry for these folks, and I'm glad when they get caught.
Yep.
All right, folks, 5-minute break for news. We'll be right back.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
Teenage years can be a time of trial. It can be really difficult, but it can also be the most fun and the best years of your parenting.
Dr. Jessica Peck is a pediatric nurse practitioner as well as a professor, author, and mother of 4. Dr. Peck is host of the Dr. Nurse Mama Show, weekdays at 2 p.m. Central, and find her podcast at afr.net.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. President Trump wants to nationalize voting.
Securing elections continues to be top of mind for President Trump as he called on Republicans to take over and nationalize voting in at least 15 unspecified places. The president making comments on the Dan Bongino show where he alleged some states are allowing people in the country to vote illegally, saying, quote, "We have states that are so crooked and they're counting votes." The idea getting pushback by some in the president's own party. Republican Congressman Don Bacon on X says, quote, "I oppose nationalizing elections when Speaker Pelosi wanted major changes to elections in all 50 states. I'll oppose this now as well." On Capitol Hill, Ryan Schmelz, Fox News.
ICE agents in Minnesota will soon be getting body cams. Brooke Taylor reporting from Minneapolis.
These ICE officers and Border Patrol agents here in Minneapolis are going to be the first to get body cameras in a rollout that was announced by DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. So she shared this on X. She said, quote, "As funding is available, the body camera program will be expanded nationwide. We'll rapidly acquire and deploy body cameras to DHS law enforcement across the country." Now, the Justice Department served grand jury subpoenas to several top Minnesota officials. They're accused of conspiring to impede federal immigration laws. That is something that Mayor Fry has denied.
A Virginia jury convicted former IRS agent Brendan Banfield of aggravated murder on Monday. He was accused of conspiring with his live-in nanny to kill his wife, Christine, and frame another man for the crime, Joseph Ryan. Virginia prosecutor Jenna Sands noted Banfield's behavior during his testimony, calling him cold.
Behaved oddly in response to questions that should have elicited emotion, that he never spoke of himself as Christine's husband, that he didn't speak lovingly of his wife, that he showed absolutely no human emotion that we expected to see of someone in his position.
A Georgia mother is charged with killing her infant son by filling his bottle with alcohol.
Cops say 37-year-old Omarilyn Colin killed her 3-month-old son by substituting formula with alcohol. She's charged with murder and child cruelty. The boy, named Nova, was found unconscious in their Atlanta home and died later at a hospital. She was charged after the medical examiner determined Nova's blood alcohol level was twice the legal limit an adult driver is permitted. Gary Baumgarten, Fox News.
An upcoming prayer event aims to bring about revival. And as Chris Woodward explains, your church can be a participant.
From March 1st through the 4th, the Great American Prayer Revival is going to emphasize getting right with Jesus and rededicating our country to following Jesus as the way, the truth, and the life. Hank Irwin is the founder and president of the Great American Prayer Revival. Talking about this on American Family Radio, Irwin said that it's amazing what happens when people focus on the Lord instead of focusing on the chaos of the day.
So we are saying the Great American Prayer Revival is an answer, and it works, and we're going to have it in all 50 states. It starts March the 1st with a prayer meeting, unbelievable, all over the United States and every state in the Union, and it is going to be the first ever attempted national revival in American history. Go to our website, GAP, G-A-P, revival-event.org.
Visitors that click on the Get Involved button will find all the resources they need on how to participate.
When revival comes, crime goes down, chaos vanishes, peace and harmony return, families go up, abortion goes down, divorce goes down, prosperity goes up, America comes back to its senses, and when we focus back on the way, the truth, and the life in the name of Jesus and really start praying, Lord, you stop this, then you're going to see a brand new era of the United States of America. It's going to start March the 1st with the Great American Prayer Revival.
I'm Chris Woodward.
The U.S. stock market is drifting through mixed trading, while gold and silver bounce back from their latest sell-off. More news available online at afn.net. And download the AFN mobile app for your Apple or Android device. I'm Rusty Pugh.
When you hear this is American Family News. You know what follows is the truth. Your news from a Christian perspective.
Hundreds of teachers are going to have to walk into that school building, and they are forced to swallow political ideology that in many cases violates their very faith and conscience.
If you miss it at the top of the hour, American Family News podcasts are available at afn.net. And sign up for our daily news brief at afn.net.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Ed Vitagliano.
And welcome back, folks. Ed Vitagliano sitting in for Tim Wildmon today and tomorrow. By the way, I want to make mention of the fact that some of the stories we've covered in the first hour are available at afn.net. That stands for American Family News, afn.net. So run over there and check it out, and you can get a kind of a list of some of the major stories delivered for free direct to your email. And then you can find out from a Christian perspective a lot of what is happening. So that is afn.net. I'm joined in studio by Fred Jackson, who kind of heads up that AFN thing.
I go there every day.
You go there every day, several times a day. And now joining us in studio, Steve Paisley Jordahl.
It's free?
It's free.
Wow, we're missing a big income opportunity there.
Yes. And the reason we miss that big income opportunity is we have the calling to get this information out and be an alternative to the mostly corrupt mainstream media that will tell you its perspective on the news from the devil. From that perspective, we try to give you a biblical perspective on that. Listen, folks, I know there's probably Christians in the mainstream media trying to do the best they can. But if you want a news source you can trust, check out AFN, American Family News, afn.net. All right, Steve-O.
I want to start here. This is breaking news. This just appeared online, and it confuses me a lot. I'm going to play some Jeanine Pirro for you. She's an attorney, the federal attorney in D.C., and I think she's got some Second Amendment issues now. The crime is down in D.C., and a lot of it seems to be because of the introduction of federal help with the crime rate in D.C. But I don't understand this. Cut 15.
You bring a gun into the district, you mark my words, you're going to jail. I don't care if you have a license in another district, and I don't care if you're a law-abiding gun owner somewhere else. You bring a gun into this district, count on going to jail, and hope you get the gun back.
Wow. What brought that on? We'll talk about the meat of the issue here in a second, but why is she going off on?
Well, what has happened is that President Trump sent in the National Guard and ICE people to clean up D.C. Because it was one of the murder capitals in the United States. The latest stats show that the numbers of murders has dropped dramatically. Jeanine Pirro was appointed to be the federal judge representative there. She's done a pretty good job.
Yeah.
President Trump has been saying people now in D.C. can go out to have dinner in the evening again.
Right.
It's safe our streets are safe. But I'm glad you brought it up, Steve, because I listened to that yesterday. She did an interview with Fox, and she was touting, D.C. is safe again. But then she said just what we played. I said, oh, wait a minute. You sound like you work for Keith Ellison,
Right.
the Attorney General of Minnesota there, saying that I don't care if you have a license to carry. If you're found with a gun in my district, you're going to get arrested. And I thought the same thing. What happened to the Second Amendment in her district?
Yeah, it's very confusing to me. We're just talking about mixed messages.
Well, here's the thing. Now, there is a reciprocity among some states. I have a enhanced carry permit here in Mississippi. There are a number of states that recognize that. If I, go down to Florida, I can take my gun there legally. Though I don't have a permit in Florida, they recognize the permit from Mississippi. A lot of the states in the South are this way. You get to some of the bigger cities, though, and sometimes that changes. I'm not sure about Atlanta, which is why when you get an enhanced carry, they always exhort you better check the laws, the reciprocity laws, in states and cities that you're going to, because some are stricter than others.
There's none in D.C.
But D.C. is extremely strict. So what Janine Pirro was saying is, first of all, even if you have a permit somewhere else, you bring your gun to D.C., you'd be arrested. And second of all, I don't know if I heard her correctly, she's basically saying we don't give permits here either, or at least with very few exceptions. So you have a gun, you'll be arrested. The Supreme Court has ruled on the issue of the Second Amendment. I am not an expert on this, but there are obviously some carve-outs for cities like D.C. because they're extremely, extremely rigid on who gets one. In fact, I remember, 10, 15 years ago, and I don't remember the gentleman's name, but he was a columnist for the Washington Post, and he was dead set against the Second Amendment, and then he actually had a break-in and used an illegal gun to protect himself and his family. And when he called the police and everything, that became public news. So that to me indicated that whatever your ideological perspective or whatever side of the political aisle you live on, everybody knows that innocent, law-abiding people should be able to protect their families, and that means with a gun. I am in favor of training and enhanced carry, for example, so that people know how to use guns, because they're very dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. So I don't know whether you maybe in some of these places with a lawsuit, force them to open up, with some limitations and say, listen, if you want a gun to protect your family, you've got to take a course on gun safety, how to use it. To me, that is a fair middle ground. But that's surprising, Steve. She's generally seems to me to be a pretty savvy constitutionalist.
Yeah.
I don't know why she was going off on guns.
She reminds me of Judge Judy.
Yeah.
She's a tough lady.
Tough lady. Very conservative.
Yeah.
So I was a little surprised by that, but your explanation there, Ed, perhaps is, that area of D.C., which she is in charge of, perhaps it's one of those exception zones.
Yeah.
We'll look into it.
Yeah.
All right. I did play this for you guys this morning as we were doing our story meeting, and it shows the length to which some Democrats are willing to go to protest ICE. There is a mayoral candidate in Long Beach, California. His name is Rogelio Martinez, and he wants some help because ICE is starting to do raids in Los Angeles. He wants some help getting rid of ICE in his community, and listen who he's calling on. This would be, Brent.
My name is Rogelio Martinez, your 2026 Long Beach City Mayor, and I need your help. I need to see 55 gang leaders here this coming Monday. The Latino gangs, the Cambodian gangs, and the Filipino gangs, and the black gangs, and the Pacific Islander gangs. We need to take back the city. Enough is enough. ICE needs to get out of Long Beach. And this is the only way that I know how to get them out. Peacefully, but with strong force, but peacefully.
That's what I call, when I want a peaceful resolution, I call gang leaders.
Yeah, and gangs are known for being peaceful, you know.
Listen, that guy is a blatherskite.
Oh, look at you.
I mean, listen, and he's a Jabberwocky. I had a very nice lady who communicated with me and said blatherskite like it. Jabberwocky is a synonym.
A little Lewis Carroll for you there.
It keeps me from saying something ugly. Okay, first, Fred, this mayor of Long Beach, now that's south of Los Angeles, right?
East of Los Angeles.
Is he mayor or candidate for mayor?
Candidate for mayor.
Okay.
Candidate, okay. So, so my first thought when Steve played this morning is, what kind of a country are we living in when a candidate for the mayor of a California city admits that there are 55 different gangs operating in the city, to the extent that he believes if they show up, they can drive out a federal agency. And then the second thing was when he said peacefully but with great force. That's utter nonsense. What does that even mean? How do you drive out a federal agency duly authorized to be in your city to go after illegal immigrants? How do you peacefully but with great force drive them out? He's calling for gang warfare against a federal agency and pretending that he wants the gangs to do it peacefully.
I would hope the good people of Long Beach, California, would say, this is a guy we cannot vote for because we don't want the gangs running our city. I'm amazed that he went public with this. This would be like a candidate in New York saying, I have friends in the mafia.
Yes.
And
I'm calling on them.
I'm calling on them.
How about the fathers?
to give me a little hand here.
I'm calling on Don Corleone to help me out in my political campaign. And by the way, in parentheses,
yes,
Don Corleone, I'll owe you. Well, I mean, what do you think the gangs?
That was actually happening. It just wasn't happening in public.
What does this mayoral candidate think the gangs are going to ask for if they were to show up?
Yes.
They're going to say, okay, you're going to have to give us a piece of the action. Nah, this is utter nonsense, but this is what passes for political discourse now on the radical left.
At the same time we're hearing him, this is happening in Minneapolis. This is the story I read on one of my Twitter feeds. There's a couple that went out to a burger place that they were saying, you have to try this burger place. So they went. And as they were driving, this lady says Minnesota ICE protesters stopped her car, checked her license plate, and wouldn't let her pass until the plates were run, and she had to show ID. She passed a small group of maybe 30 people holding signs spelling out what people wanted to do to ICE out. Many of the houses in the neighborhood also had signs saying similar messages. When they were leaving to drive back to the hotel, they passed the group again. At that point, the resistance group stopped in front of our car and would not let us drive. One woman appeared to be looking at our license plate and doing something on her phone. She was standing directly in front of the car, blocking us. I can't imagine being a sane person and living in this city. They were visiting.
Wow, Fred, this was equally shocking this morning in our story meeting. This is Minneapolis. You said this story, Minneapolis.
Yes.
There are roving gangs of protesters doing roadblocks and stopping vehicles and stopping traffic. I mean, how absurd is the situation in Minneapolis where the local police will not go and clear these people, okay, really trying to withhold insulting language. Why aren't they clearing these people off the roads? I mean, listen, we can't. If we went to Minneapolis, could we get a group big enough and just stop traffic and demand personal information and keep them from leaving so we can find out if their license plate matches something that we might be able to tie to ice? And then what happens if they do? They'll destroy the vehicle. What happens after that? People get scared. They floor the gas pedal, the accelerator. They run people over. This is utter lawlessness in that city. And to Steve's point, whoever he was quoting there, how do sane people exist in a city that's lost its mind?
Well, this is all a result of the political leadership there. The governor of the state, Tim Walz, the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, both of them basically have advocated for lawlessness. They have encouraged what we have seen in the way of protest against ICE agents in that city. I'm sure all of our listeners have seen some of the videos of what these ICE agents have had to put up with. People spitting at them, people kicking rear lights of vehicles up.
They're stealing weapons and important information and paperwork from their vehicles.
Yeah, they have allowed anarchy, the political leadership. They've allowed anarchy in that city. So it doesn't, in some ways, it doesn't surprise me that these people are saying we have a green light basically to do whatever we want. So we're going to stop vehicles here. And because the local police have been told not to cooperate with ICE, I'm not surprised that the local police are stopping these people.
That they're not stopping them.
That they're not stopping them. The protesters are basically, you have carte blanche to do whatever you want.
Well, Steve, this reminds me of the quote-unquote summer of love in 2020 in places like Seattle and Portland.
And Minneapolis.
Where people basically took over swaths of the city, and the local political brain trust basically said, go ahead.
No-go zones.
Yeah. You do you, and we'll stay away.
And it worked out so well. Businesses were burned out. It was an abject failure.
There were sex crimes committed in these areas, these autonomous zones. There were murders. There was a lot of drug use, and they finally dissipated, and they were finally, I think, broken up. But this is the mentality of the people on the far left, and it's listen. I don't know, Fred. Have you talked recently to Jan Markell? She's stuck in that area.
Yeah,
she's been, when we've had her on this show in the past, she's bemoaned the fact that city has gone to the dogs because of the political leadership, and now this is even more frightening.
Jan lives on the outside of Minneapolis, but
her address is
yes. a number of times she has said she was scared to give comments because it's a war zone in that city, and it's been allowed to continue. I mean, we haven't even mentioned yet, but I'll mention it now, the investigation underway into fraud.
Yeah.
And let me put it this way. It's not going to surprise me if the governor of the state, Tim Walz, who was almost vice president of this country.
Yes.
Scary. And the mayor of Minneapolis, it's not going to surprise me if we someday learn they were well aware of this fraud going on. You talk about lawlessness.
Yeah. Right.
They don't seem to have a problem with it. They in their thinking, they believe such activity is justified. And I tell you what, Minneapolis, I know there are good people there. I watched a hockey game from Minneapolis last night. I figure all the hockey fans are good people.
Yes, that's right.
All right. I said
because they behave themselves.
They behave themselves, yeah, to a certain extent.
Yeah.
I said to my wife, I'm going to look in the stands to see if there's any anti-ice signs or anything. I didn't see anything at all. Yeah. And unfortunately, Winnipeg lost.
Yes.
In overtime.
Yeah.
In overtime.
Yeah.
But there's some really good people there in that state,
but they're trapped. Frankly,
they are trapped.
They're prisoners in the lunatic asylum.
They really are, and I don't know I think if I was living there, I would be seriously considering moving.
Louisiana Senator John Kennedy shares your distrust of Governor Walz. Got 14.
Governor Tim Walz. Whatever he says, believe the opposite. I'm sorry, the man learned to lie before he learned to talk. He's just a less masculine version of Hillary Clinton.
Senator John Kennedy. Who's someone on the TI team? That's their favorite senator. I think it's you.
It's mine.
Yeah,
Oh,
you love Senator Kennedy from Louisiana. So he's just a less masculine version of Hillary Clinton. That is a put down for the ages for both Hillary and Tim Walz.
I got to say, Senator Kennedy was nice.
Yeah,
yes.
He was nice. I've heard him when he's really cranked up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes
we might not be able to play.
Sometimes we can't put him on the air.
That's a brilliant put down. Now I'm going to tell you. I also wouldn't be surprised to find if we find out that Mayor Fry and Governor Walz knew about this, and they were in favor of it because it's used to help the Somali immigrants. It's billions of dollars.
Yes.
And yet we're not talking about that very much because all we hear on the mainstream media is about ICE and their quote unquote, according to Tim Walz, their atrocities that they're committing.
Yeah.
Just an update right now. We're watching the passage or not passage of this spending bill. The test vote is underway. Right now, the no votes are ahead by one vote, with one Republican left to cast a vote. If that two Republicans voted against the spending bill, which would, if they can't get past this test vote, then we have a government shutdown on the way. If they can't get this last Republican vote, if they do get it, then Vice President J.D. Vance would have to cast the tie-breaking vote.
Even in the House of Representatives?
In the House of Representatives. Well, no, he's in the Senate.
Yeah. Yes.
My bad.
So what do they do if the vote is tied in the House? I guess it fails.
I don't know.
If it's a tie.
That's actually a good question.
Well, anyway, Washington's exhausting.
Yes.
I mean, it's just exhausting watching the inability of Congress to actually function. Go ahead.
But you said it, Ed. We're a deeply divided country. We only have a few minutes left, but we talked about in our story meeting a poll that's just out there about the 28 presidential election and who's favorite. Kamala Harris wins for the Democrats. Kamala Harris. I was shocked by that. And number 2 is Governor Newsom of California. Number 3, AOC.
Yes.
So these are the people the Democrats still like, and they want on the ticket in 28. I mean, it's the polar opposite on the Republican side. It's J.D. Vance is well out in front. So we are a deeply divided country, and I'm not sure how you resolve that. We have had years of indoctrination of our young people about socialism and communism. Again, we don't have a chance to go into stories today, but we've got young people today that can't add 2 + 2.
Yeah. Don't know what a man is or a woman.
Don't know what a man or a woman is, but you know they're out there protesting. We had stories this week of elementary school teachers last week when the anti-ICE people were holding these cross-country demonstrations. We had elementary school teachers taking their little kids out and protesting in the street against ICE.
With or without parents' knowledge?
Of course.
Oh, my. Well, look, the Democratic Party is cooked.
Yeah.
All right. Now, this is what I mean. They have been taken over by the radical wing in this party, the radical left. They've been taken over by it. That's why AOC, that's why Kamala and Governor Newsom are the top 3 in terms of Democrat voters. So the Democratic Party is that we all used to know that's over.
Yeah,
I don't know if mainstream liberals, classical liberals, can get that party back. But the country may be cooked too, because if that party can inspire new voters and young people to go with this communist wave in this country, then we could continue to see this insanity gain a foothold in a city near you, coming to a city near you. Anyway, thank you, Fred. Appreciate it. Thank you, Steve.
My pleasure.
Our thanks to Chris Woodward. Also, our thanks to Steve Tybor, president of 8 Days of Hope. Please go to 8 Days of Hope, their website, and maybe participate in what's happening here in Mississippi or Tennessee. Thanks to Brent Creeley, our infamous and infamous and awesome producer. And listen, more great programming directly ahead on American Family Radio. Thanks for listening to today's issues. Lord willing, we'll see you tomorrow.